Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Bestseller Live. I am your host, Cynthia Johnson. And today I have an incredible speaker, Dr. Debra Clary. She is a curiosity scientist and leadership strategist who helps leaders and organizations rediscover the most overlooked driver of innovation, curiosity. With more than 4 decades of executive leadership experience in companies including Coca-Cola, Frito-Lay's, Jack Daniels, Humana, and she has led billion-dollar brands and worked closely with executive teams navigating growth, disruption, and transformation. She holds a doctorate in leadership and organizational development. Dr. Clary studies curiosity as a leadership discipline rather than a personality trait. Her proprietary curiosity curve and curiosity assessment frameworks allow organizations to measure where curiosity is accelerating performance and where stagnation may be quietly limiting innovation. As founder and CEO of the Clary Group, she advises Fortune 500 companies and mission-driven organizations on how to embed curiosity into leadership, decision-making, and culture. And today we are going to talk about her book, The Curiosity Curve. Hello, Dr. Clary. It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
4 decades. I was like, no way.
It's a long time.
uh, Before we jump into questions about the book, 4 decades of leadership, have you seen a curiosity trend?
Well, I have seen a curiosity decline. So that, in a sense, is a trend, unfortunately, and which has really got me into studying, what was missing in organizations. So having spent a decade at Frito-Lay, a decade at Coca-Cola, then I went to the hard stuff, Jack Daniels. I was just always really interested in human behavior. And when I spent the last 15 years or so in another Fortune 50 company, I really began to think that curiosity was missing in organizations. And that's why we started on this path of doing research.
Were you employed at these places for decades?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
wow.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
What was that? What is that title? Like, yeah, where did you fit into the system and were you allowed to talk about curiosity in the way that you wanted to?
Well, I mean, so a little bit about my background is I started right out of graduate school as a route driver for Frito-Lay. So I actually started at the bottom delivering potato chips in the city of Detroit. And then I moved into management and then into marketing. So I spent a decade in various operating and marketing roles at Frito-Lay and then joined Coca-Cola again in marketing and operating type roles. And I also, at that time, I had an account that spanned the globe. So I got to see all these incredible international places and understand how business is done differently internationally versus domestically. And then I went to Jack Daniels as their VP of strategy. And so, from soft drinks to the hard stuff, if you will, in terms of learning how to really position brands that consumers want to buy. And that's where I got really interested in human behavior. So I went back for my doctorate in leader development at George Washington University, really wanted to study like how could I become a better leader, but how could I help others become a better leader? And then when I came out of that, I ran a leadership institute. And then it was in around 2019, I began to see productivity, engagement, all things started to decline. And I had a hypothesis that what was missing was curiosity.
Wow. I mean, that is a inside baseball. I guess I don't even know if I'm using that correctly, but that sort of journey, which I actually really appreciate because now you're on the outside looking in and you were in the inside looking out. So, from those two perspectives, why do you think curiosity is becoming more overlooked when we talk about innovation? Um, and why has it been before? Like why is it
So
trending down?
So if you think about in the beginning, as toddlers and as young children going to elementary schools, is we are taught to be incurious. So a toddler asks 298 questions a day. And you're saying, oh, they can't even talk. Well, if they're pointing at something, they're asking a question. So a group of neuroscientists out of London were really studying toddlers' behaviors. And so they asked 298 questions a day. As adults, we're at about five. And the reason is as children, we're taught to be incurious. Don't open Pandora's box. Sit in your seat, raise your hands. Curiosity killed the cat. All of those things that we're taught to be incurious. Then we grow up, we go to universities, we get degrees, and we become experts in our fields, and we're rewarded for that expertise. And in addition to that, we don't have time to think about beyond what we're already thinking about it. So it's not our fault. We are naturally taught to be incurious. But here's the good news is that in our research, we found that curiosity can be learned and curiosity is contagious. So that's the good news. Here's the other good news is that in our research, we found that there's a direct correlation between a leader's level of curiosity and performance. Right. So if you want to increase the performance of your team, of your organization, you can do so by creating a space where people ask questions. You create a place where people feel safe to challenge the status quo, to come up with ideas, and you begin to embrace those.
I mean, I've worked inside of companies and I have a lot of questions. I have toddlers also. So I've become more curious to your point of being contagious. They're almost I feel like I've noticed a fear sometimes with with questions and leadership. And have you noticed that? And if you have, why is that?
We have taught leaders to have all the answers. The best leaders have all
Mm.
the answers, and it's just not true anymore. I mean, the best leaders ask the best questions. The best leaders are those that create space for others to ask questions and come together and to really generate new innovations, generate new ideas by collaborating together. So, leaders, I know it's not your fault, but now that you know better, you have the opportunity to do better. And if you're really committed to increasing performance, you can do so through curiosity.
And you frame curiosity as not a personality trait, which I loved that,
Mhm.
you know, because we're all becoming every day. But it's a discipline. So something that can be taught, something that you it's not I am or I am not. It's I know how or I don't. Is that
Yeah, yeah,
okay?
absolutely. And it's this sense of if you are around people that are curious, someone that's asking you questions or asking questions about what's happening in the world or any particular topic, your curiosity level will rise as well. So I always say, if you want to be a better leader, you want to be a better human, be around other curious people because it's going to rub off on you.
Who was it? It's just coming back to me. Was it Larry King? That was like he started bringing curiosity back up. It was like 10 years ago. He's like, I'm just curious.
Uh,
And that's it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to be, is because when you're curious, it's when the dopamine is hitting your brain. And when you have dopamine in your brain, you feel like you're searching for connections, you're searching for novelty, and new ways of doing things. So there was another study done out of MIT on seniors. So these were mostly women that were already in facilities and they were being cared for by others. And they measured their brains. And what they found out is that for those women that were continuously doing puzzles or socializing or staying connected, had one third less dementia than those that were not doing those things. So curiosity, we start off curious, and if we can stay that way, it actually promotes vitality.
I word person, so I see like cure and curiosity now all of a sudden. I
Yeah,
use
yes, yes.
it. To use it.
Yeah, it's like the curiosity cure.
Right. I mean, we're not cats. So
Right. Well, here's the interesting there, Cynthia, is that when I was writing my book, I wrote in there curiosity killed the cat. And my editor, a fast company, came back and said, I need you to cite that. And I'm like, my mother, right? She goes, no, no, no. I go, well, Miss Erickson. She goes, no, no, you have to cite it or we're going to need to pull it from the book. So I was like not happy about it, but I went back and I did some research. And guess what? Curiosity Killed the Cat is attributed to William Shakespeare in 1589. But guess what? It's only the first part of the sentence.
yeah.
Curiosity killed the cat, comma, but satisfaction brought it back. Now, what kind of world would we live in if we were taught that at 4 and 5 years old?
Yeah, that's first of all, Shakespeare has got so much going on still. But also, yeah, it's unfortunate too, because it develops fear early. Like I hear it and I'm like, oh, yeah,
Oh,
maybe I shouldn't be on learning so much. But then they'll like go to school. I'm like, what are you doing at school if not being curious?
yeah, absolutely. You know what we've done over a thousand executives in our assessment. So we have a curiosity curve assessment, and we can measure the current state of curiosity. And what we discovered is that with more seniority and comes certainty, meaning certainty is I know what I'm doing. And when that happens, curiosity narrows, right? And so we are certain we know what we are doing. We give people the answers. And I'm just encouraging leaders out there is to reverse that. It's okay to be confident, but also be continuously questioning and being open to having questions.
And I mean, I know it's called the curiosity curve. So this is like it's on a curve, it's graded on a curve, basically.
Not exactly. It's the sense of your curiosity ebbs and flows depending on the environment you're in, just like engagement. So Gallup measures engagement, and engagement will shift depending on the leader and the team that you're on. And curiosity is the same way, meaning that if you're around more curious people, if your leader is curious, your curiosity level will increase. And we want to do that because that improves performance. And so it's this sense of that, curiosity, I approach it like it's a system, and the system can be adjusted so that curiosity is increased. Now, curb also means that if we are curious and we take no action, that doesn't drive performance. So there is a balanced level of curiosity. There's an optimal amount of curiosity that can really drive performance.
So not too much, but not too little. There's a sweet
Yes.
spot.
Yeah. I guess I would be, is that the Goldilocks and the Three Bears?
Yeah. So we have been taught this lesson indirectly as
Yeah,
well.
there
Yeah.
you go.
No, I have so many questions because this fits into I teach a lot of people about identity and personal branding, and I say that self is a tool of discovery. And you are framing this in such a beautiful way, and I'm like, I want to know. So, if curiosity is a discipline and it can be learned, how like is are we able to know when we've gone too far? Now we're just like interrogating people and then or we have or we're actually gone too far the other way and we aren't asking enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, most people are in the camp of not asking enough questions. So I was recently with a C-suite of a very large pharmaceutical company based in Europe, and the CEO took the assessment, as did her team, and she was very vulnerable. And she said, "I was not truthful on my assessment." She says, "I know I scored one of the highest in the rooms, but I realize now I was being aspirational. It's not my current state." She goes, "I realize that I make more statements than I make questions." And she goes, "I'm just declaring to my team, I'm going to do different. I'm going to be better." That's now that in itself is the essence of a leader who recognizes and is vulnerable with their team to say, this is important to me. I'm going to get better.
Yes, and I would assume there's very few, and I'm going to ask you, so are there careers where this doesn't work? Or
I can't think of a single career
yeah.
where that wouldn't work, right? Any individual, whether you're a leader, a manager, individual contributor, or just a mom or a dad, where curiosity is not going to fuel your connection to the world and connection to those that are around you.
And how are you assessing the like can you give us the framework? So I would go in and I take the assessment. What happens?
So the assessment is made up of four factors. And those four factors are exploration, and that is about somebody that is looking out and saying, man, what is possible here? What have we not thought of? Let's go and explore. The next one is openness to new ideas, meaning when somebody comes to you and says, I have an idea, you don't say, oh, we tried that before or that won't work here. You say, tell me more. Tell me more. And then the next one is inspirational creativity, which is, do you have the ability to look at other industries, other departments and divisions and say, wow, they're doing something there. We might be able to apply something similar here. And then the last one is focused engagement, which is now that we've made a decision, let's go get it done.
Hmm.
Right. So we measure individuals on those four factors and it's on a continuum. And so you can go to my website, you can take the free version and you'll get an email that gives you what your results are. And of course, obviously you can buy the book if you want to go deeper in understanding, the science behind curiosity. And then most importantly is how do you create a culture of curiosity?
Both of those. So first, I want to. So from your lens, obviously, you went very deep into this. Um, what was your spark? Like, was there a moment where you're like, "Whoa, this is the word. This is the."
Yes. Yes. So what happened to me, this was about maybe 2019. I was sitting in the boardroom next to my CEO of a Fortune, 40 company, and somebody was presenting at the front of the boardroom, and he quietly asked me, "Do you think curiosity can be learned or is it innate?" And I could tell by the way he asked the question, he didn't think the person presenting was very curious or was being defensive when being asked questions. So that's kind of interesting. Let me go do some research. Well, I was just leaving for a trip to Europe. I was in Rome. I was on a train from Rome to Florence, and I was sitting next to a very handsome Italian man. And he says to me, "Are you American?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am." And he said, "Oh, I have the best American joke. What do you get when you ask an American a question? An answer." And he thought it was the funniest thing. And I wondered about that. And as I began to watch Europeans in conversation, I'm like, yeah, they are having different conversations than we have in America. And then I flew back, and then Gallup had just released their engagement report. And in the history of measuring employee engagement, they had never seen engagement so low. And that's when I had this hypothesis that I think there's a relationship between curiosity and performance. So I commissioned a group of researchers to go study it. And 3 months later, they came back and said, how'd you know? And I'm like, 4 decades navigating complex systems and watching, engagement and performance ebb and flow. And we went and did more research and became more convinced that the world needed to understand the power of curiosity to drive performance.
I also love the response was, "How did you know?" And you're
Yeah.
like, "I did it.
Yeah, like
I
I
asked the
like
question." It's
it
fascinating.
was just those three factors that came together so closely, and I let's go study it. Let's go study it. And I think they thought I was a little crazy, like there's not going to be anything out there like. And I go, let's commission a primary study, and if the answer is no, then I just keep working and I keep doing my thing. And then when they came back, I said, gosh, the world needs to hear this. And then when I told my CEO I was going to go do this work. He's like, what? Like you're giving up all this. Like I'm giving up all this because I just feel called to share with the world the power of curiosity. It's not a luxury. You really want to extend your competitive edge. You want to deepen your relationships. Curiosity is the path.
Okay, so I have a 5-year-old. I'm not gonna be.
Mhm.
Um, she's was so curious. 2-year-old, very curious. Now I knew that. I knew that all the time.
Oh.
And it's
Mhm.
you're like, what? Like, does something switch? I mean, is there a sign that says, "Oh, this leader's losing curiosity"? And
Well,
they,
yeah. So let's just go back to, toddlers for a minute. So, we go through developmental stages. And one of those stages is that we want to have our own agency, our own authority, which comes about the age of 5. So by saying, um, oh, I know that, it's really how we are biologically wired, and this is ancient biology into our brain. So it's nothing anyone has done or said, but the brain goes to, I need to look like I have the answer. And as the mother, I would encourage you to say, well, what else might you know? In addition to that, what else is there? To keep exploring that. I have 4 grandchildren, and I will say to them, ask them a question, and they'll say, I don't know. But I know they know, or I know if they thought deeper about it, they could come up with it. And when they say, I don't know, I say, if you did know, what would you know? And they go, my shoes are at the front door. Well, let's go look. Maybe the shoes are at the front door. This sense of, as parents, it's just so important that we continuously, that we're open to their questions, and we're encouraging their questions, but also recognize that they will narrow unless we keep them open. One, because of the brain, but also because they're going to be taught to be curious when they go to school, they go to nursery school, they're around others. And as parents, we can keep that door open by continuously asking them questions. And when they ask you a question, you say, I don't know. Let's go see where we can explore and find that answer. So modeling it.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for the parenting tips as well. But I've noticed there's correlation, at least from my perspective, between toddlers and just any adult.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're all humans and having this human experience. And there's research that suggests that, by the time we're 7, we're pretty much locked into our worldview. We've listened to our parents, our teachers, and we begin to say, all right, to stay safe in the world, this is the way I need to see the world. This is the way I need to behave. Right. And what we do know is that that's a small circle, your parents and your teachers. And as you go into the world, unless we're open to new experience and open to changing our mind, we can really get locked into that 7-year-old. So sometimes when you're dealing with an adult, you're like, okay, that's person is still 7 years old. They haven't worked through stuff in terms of there's new possibilities.
Yeah, and yes, that is there a correlation between education and leadership? Have you studied that? Is that, more educated in a certain direction, or is it practice?
It is really practice. And I would suggest that even more education that creates certainty could narrow curiosity. I'm not saying it's across the board, but it is something that we could fall into, of saying, I know the way, this is the way it needs to get done. And oh, by the way, I don't have a whole lot of time to ask questions or go research. So I'm just going to do it the way I know to do that. And I think that's where we get into trouble. I really encourage executives that have this certainty is to poke at it.
And how is that applied to culture? How can leaders not only be more curious, but also create a curious environment?
Yeah. So the first thing is to have the intention. So we have to start with self. To be curious, it has to start with me, and going in with the mindset of, I have the intention to be curious. I have the intention of learning from others. And now that I'm a leader, I have the opportunity to create a culture of curiosity. So how you would start is, when you have an agenda, make sure you're leaving space for questions. It's not all one way didactic conversation, but rather, I want your opinion on this, or what do you think about this? This is the direction we're heading. Is invite questions, and then invite dissension. Why will this not work? What have we not thought about? Right? How might we fail? Those kind of questions, and know that you're the kind of leader that welcomes those kind of thorny questions.
I would love that environment. But with the question, so okay, you said earlier on, we're seeing a decline, and I'm curious, with AI is pretty much a hot topic, right? In a lot of these
Sure.
organizations. Uh, is there a need for more, like, curiosity, less curiosity? Are we, like, do you see that helping or hindering?
So it could be both. So you think about right now, anyone that has a phone or a computer or access to those things have the answers. So right now the playing ground is equal, right? We all have the same answers or slightly a variation of that. So the real differentiator comes between what questions are you asking? And that comes from, judgment. It comes from, being open to new ideas. So that's where real innovation comes is can you be the person in the room with the best questions?
Oh, that's great. That's great. The entire concept, I mean, I believe in like even the way you introduce the book is really is really powerful. This idea of not being personality trait, it can be learned. Like it hits home. For everyone who is listening to this interview, if you had one thing, they can only take one thing from the book. What do you hope that is?
That you know our brains think that they are helpful to us, but our brains are predictable machines. The brain thrives on efficiency and saving energy. That is a fact. That is how we are wired. So things are stacked against us because our brain wants to go to certainty because certainty is about survival, whether that be physical or emotional. And so this sense of just recognizing that you can make change and it just requires the intentionality of I'm going to be open and I'm going to create an environment where people feel like they can come forward with questions.
Yes. And uh, I mean, I'm trying to figure out like how many questions in a row you can go in a conversation and learn like questioning a question. Would you use this book maybe in a team environment, like book club, for instance? Like,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that's the work that I do. I work with organizations and teams that want to improve performance, and we go through the first. We start off what's current state of curiosity. What are some of the barriers? What's getting in our way right now that's not allowing us to push performance? Where do we shut down curiosity? And then we set an intention and we set an action plan. One would be we make sure on the agenda that there's time for discussion. And we reward people that are asking questions. Reward meaning, thank you for asking that. It shows that you really care. The sense of you can shift the culture by the way in which you lead.
love that. This is a really wonderful, wonderful book. And The Curiosity Curve, The Curiosity Scientist, which is also great. Scientists are forever curious. Is that right?
What's that?
Are scientists supposed to be forever curious?
The best ones are.
Yeah, I love this. Dr. Claire, where can we find you? And if someone wants to work with you, how would they, what questions would they ask?
Yes. So you can go to my website, which is Debra, DebraClary, DebraClary.com. And on there, I have lots of additional literature in additional ways that you can buy the book. But also, there's a contact there. If you want to reach out to me, my email is on my website. And I would love to chat about how we could help you.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for being here and for writing the curiosity curve and creating the assessment. I'm thrilled. I'm going to buy it and give it to my team. So thank you for giving me
Awesome.
this time. And for all of you out there watching, we'll put all of her contact information in the show notes, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Bestseller Live. Thanks so much.